Now, nobody wants to hear this, but sometimes the truth you feel so desperate to share is actually just your emotions throwing a temper tantrum. And the person you're venting to, they're just the unlucky bystander caught in the crossfire. You ever told somebody exactly how you felt, raw and unfiltered, thinking that it would truly set you free? Only to watch them stare at you like you just slapped their grandma? Yeah, I've been there. So today, we're talking about something most people never figure out: when to speak, when to shut up, and when to just go and write it down in your damn journal. Because believe me, oversharing ain't healing and silence ain't lying. But finding the balance, that's true wisdom. This is Ace Anderson Live. Let's get it. Yo, 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 what's good, family? It's your boy Ace Boogie. Good morning to all you beautiful, brilliant, abundantly blessed beings, and welcome back to yet another present moment. You are tuned into Ace Anderson Live, the Ace Anderson Show. This is the place where we connect every single Monday morning to fuel your life with inspirational, entrepreneurial tips and tricks to help you ace your life. Now, take a moment to congratulate yourself for showing up today and making it to yet another beautiful dawn with me, your dedicated guide on this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you don't know by now, I am an actor, a rapper, a poet, a filmmaker, the ace of all trades, the modern Renaissance man, Ace Anderson, and I am so happy to be here with you all for another blessed week. Now, this show is my way of sharing not just who I am, but also what I've learned about living a life full of purpose, creativity, and resilience. It's a blessing to have you here with me for another opportunity for growth, connection, and clarity. Now, as we embrace this first light together, I want to extend a special shout out to all you early risers joining in. Your dedication to starting the week with positivity shows that you're already setting the tone for a powerful, intentional week. And that energy is what makes the A team extraordinary. So I want you to grab your favorite morning brew. You know that my drink of choice is alkaline water. And let's explore, illuminate, and inspire ourselves to be better with mindful conversation. Now, today, I'd like to discuss the truth. That's right. We're talking about the nasty, wasty truth. And I'm excited to share it. I'm excited to talk with y'all about this because it's something that has always been at the foundation of my spirit and my soul and everything that I want to accomplish and achieve. And I realized that I have been misunderstanding the truth and the purpose of the truth. Right now, have you ever felt like, you had nobody to talk to? Like your thoughts were too much, too deep, too heavy for the people around you? I definitely been there, right? And I'm gonna tell you, it's a scary feeling, right? And for the longest time, I thought that I was, just being honest. I thought that I was just, telling people how I felt, telling someone how I felt because I didn't want to hold on to that, right? And I'm just keeping it real, no filter, no sugarcoating. But what I didn't realize was, in a way, subconsciously, I was weaponizing the truth and calling it authenticity. And I mean, y'all know me, like, I had to, I had to learn this the hard way because, like, I'm all about truth. And what I realized is that even in my marriage, I used to kind of go to my wife with everything about everything that I felt, every insecurity, every doubt, every internal battle that I was facing, and I thought that I was being transparent, but in reality, I was just dumping my raw, unprocessed emotions on her, like a truck unloading bricks. And you know what happened, right? It didn't bring us closer, right? It made us, it didn't make me feel lighter. It created arguments and stress and hurt. And I'm starting to see how that is not the best process, right? That's not the best way to go about things. Why was it causing all this argument and stress and hurt? Because truth without wisdom is just noise, right? And that's, when I realized I wasn't telling the truth out of love. I was just telling the truth out of fear. I was afraid that if I didn't say everything, that then I'd be accused of lying, and it would be true because I'm omitting the truth. I'm not telling her how I feel. I'm not saying what's really on my mind, and she deserves the truth. And in truth, in all honesty, this was just a traumatic, my own traumatic response, right? From previous trauma, and it was a coping mechanism because I had been in relationships where I lied to my partner, and I wasn't necessarily lying directly. Oh my gosh, I wasn't directly lying, but I was omitting the truth, and I was holding on to that for a very, very long time, and it destroyed the relationship. And after that, I was single for a few years. I was single, and it was terrible. I hated it, and so I vowed to never allow that to happen to me again, because I didn't want to be in a space where I'm like caught lying to my partner and not speaking the truth, and so I just decided to just say everything, because I was afraid that I would be lying if I didn't. I was afraid that my emotions would fester, and that I'd suffocate under the weight of unspoken words. And the truth is, not every thought deserves a microphone, and not every feeling needs an audience. And that's what today's episode is all about. And so, y'all already know, and I ain't just doing this for me. I'm doing this for us. So if you're loving this vibe, you're going to want to check out my other channel, Piece by Piece, which is spelled peace, like the peace in your heart, by peace, the peace in your heart. My space for deeper conversation about self-discovery, empowerment, and aligning with the life that you've always dreamed of. And together we're building something powerful, one moment of intention at a time. So make sure you go follow my channel at Made Piece by Piece. And that's where I go deeper into topics like self-discovery, empowerment, and life hacks to help you find peace one moment at a time. So as we set the tone for this week's conversation, let's ground ourselves in the fruit of the spirit. That is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These divine 9 are our guideposts, reminding us to lead with purpose and grace as we chase greatness. Now, this is the Ace Anderson Show, and we're about to level up piece by piece. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so starting off, we should be real, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you're an artist, you're just someone who actually thinks about life. It could feel like you're living on an island, right? Sometimes it feels like that for me, for sure. I feel like I'm in a category of one and I don't have anybody who I can relate to. And sometimes it really feels like that, you start feeling like nobody gets me. I can't talk to anybody about what I'm going through. But the truth is, it's not that no one understands you. It's that you haven't really found the right people to share with, right? Proverbs 13:20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. It's important to walk with folks who will level you up. Walk with people who are a level above you. You should always be the dumbest person in the room. You should always be, let me not say always, but the majority of the time that you spend with other people should be with people who elevate you, people who are on the level that you want to be at so you can rise up, right? You don't want to always be the smartest person in the room because you'll never level up. You're just going to associate with fools, and you're going to, by association, start to absorb some of that foolishness, right? And so, like they say, show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are. And so, you want to be really, really mindful about like the types of people that you're spending time around, And so the translation of that, of walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm, we'd say, who you vent to determines whether you get wisdom or just more noise. Sometimes we find ourselves venting to people that are just like responding in a way that like, that's leading us astray, right? Some people listen to respond. Some listen to judge. But the right people, they listen to help you process. You want to hang out with people who ask you more questions rather than giving you their advice. If you notice, a really good therapist doesn't give you advice. They ask you the right questions to help lead you to the advice on your own, to find the understanding on your own. So a practical tip for this, is create a who can handle this list, right? Make 3 categories. Deep thinkers, right? This is people who understand complexity. 2, encouragers. These are people who uplift you without guilt, right? Or uplift a message without guilt or judgment, sorry. And problem solvers, people who find solutions. They'll help you find solutions. So the three categories are: 1, deep thinkers. You just want to start noticing the people in your life who are deep thinkers. Who can I have? And they don't all have to be the same person. They don't all have to have all 3 characteristics, right? Just, you want to be able to know, like, okay, I can go to this person if I need to go in deep thought. Like, I can understand complexity, right? Then you want to find encouragers, right? People who uplift you without judgment. And you want to find problem solvers, people who help you find solutions. And before venting, you want to ask yourself, who fits this moment? If no one fits it, then you just journal it, right? So who fits this moment? Is this for a deep thinker? Is this for an encourager? Is this for a problem solver? Like, what do I need out of this conversation right now? Do I need somebody who just understands me? I just need to vent so I can get some understanding. Do I need somebody who's going to encourage me and be like, nah, man, you could do it. You can figure it out. You got this. Or do I need somebody who's going to help me solve a problem and say, like, nah, look, this is what we're going to do. These are the things you can do to solve that, right? And those are 3 different types of people. And if it's not either of those things that you're looking for, or if you don't have those people, then just journal it. Journal it, and that will allow you to process the feelings that you're feeling and let them go, right? And so now the takeaways for that is, you just start asking yourself, is this the right person to hold this conversation with? If the answer is no, you just write it down, you sit with it, process it, because sometimes your best therapist is silence. Sometimes your best therapist is silence. And I've been really challenged lately to learn that. I had an experience where I shared something with someone who I thought I could truly confide in. And it turns out that that person was not mature enough to be able to handle the truth that I was giving them. And I didn't realize that. I thought that they gave this air of maturity. They gave this air of, I know, I've seen the world, I got it, sort of thing. And they vented to me before, and I thought that I was in a space to be able to share and vent back. And it turns out that they weren't. They were very upset by the things that I had told them. And not beknownst to me. Like, when we had the conversation, it felt like everything was all good. And then it came to realize, like, because other people started asking me, hey, yo, did you talk to this person about this? And no, this and this, and this information started coming back to me. And so I reached out, and they were like, yo, that was really upsetting. And, it turns out that they were really upset with me because of sharing this information. And so, I realized, like, wow, like my need to share this truth trumped, my discernment of whether they could handle it. And, and it was more important for me to share and say something than for me to, like, stop and recognize, like, hey, is this the right person that I need to share this with? So every topic that I discuss in my live streams on the Ace Anderson show, I want y'all to know that it's always based in my life. These are lessons that I'm learning. Sometimes, like, immediately. Sometimes it's a while back. Like, I've been incorporating these lessons for a long time. But also, there's a lot of lessons that I learn, on a week to week basis. And so this live stream allows me to process that out loud and to work it out. And I learn from being able to teach, right? So moving on, right? Now I want to talk a little bit about emotional hoarding, right? Stop collecting feelings that you don't need. This is often where I've felt like I'm, like, holding on to a lot of these feelings, and I don't really actually need them. You ever noticed how people, they'll hold on to every emotional wound like it's a collector's item. They're out here hoarding negative emotions like it's a subscription service. Oh, this grudge had it since '09. Me and that person, we don't ever talk. This resentment, limited edition. This insecurity, vintage. Right? Like they hold on to this stuff like it's a collector's item, and it's wild, man. Like, these are not things to be proud of. When you're holding on to negative emotions, you become a vibrational match to negative frequencies, and everything in your life becomes negative, right? So many things. It taints everything. So you want to make sure that you're not holding on. You got to stop that, right? Stop holding on to every feeling isn't deep, right? It's self-destructive. It's self-destruction in disguise as self-awareness, right? So just because you're aware of something doesn't mean you got to give your attention to it and hold on to it, right? The Buddha once said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Like, we talked about this in a few live streams back. When you're angry, right? You're angry at somebody. You think that you're giving that person anger. But in truth, the anger never leaves your body. The anger just stays in here. You just stay holding on to it, right? And so it's really interesting and fascinating that we tend to think that, like, we're giving people our emotions. That's kind of a delusion. We've tricked ourselves into believing this. You can't give anybody your emotions. You can't give someone a feeling, right? And so it's very, very, very interesting that we feel that way because we're just holding on to it. we're really just holding on to the anger. We're holding on to the frustration. We're holding on to the fear and the sadness and the worry and the doubt and the guilt and all of those things. It never leaves our body. It never leaves our body. So, like the Buddha said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You got to stop that. And yet, so many of us out here just sipping on our own bitterness. Like, get a different drink, man. Life is so much sweeter. There's so many more emotions that you can feel that are positive, that make life better. So for this, I want you to practice the 5-minute burn and release. What you do, if you have an emotion that you find yourself, you've been holding on to it for a long time, it's not changing the circumstance. All it's doing is making you focus on the circumstance. I want you to practice this. You're going to set a timer for 5 minutes. Right? You're going to write down every raw, unfiltered emotion and no editing. And when the timer stops, you're going to either burn it, shred it, or delete it. Okay? So you're going to set a timer for 5 minutes. You're going to write down every raw, unfiltered emotion without editing. Write it down. Write down how you feel about this thing on paper. You're gonna type it out, whatever works for you, right? It's better to write things down because there's something about the like neurology that like connects to your brain, and like it's just better. You feel it more, and so you want to write it down, and then you're gonna set that timer, and then once the timer is done, you're gonna burn it. You're going to shred it, or you're going to delete it. Why? Because this teaches your mind that not every single thought deserves permanent space. Right? You're going to start to understand that. This is what we don't understand about, like, when it comes to religion. The reason why the religious practices are physical practices, right? The reason why we call, like, if I go to work, I work 3 jobs, right? What do they say? I'm sacrificing for my family, right? I'm not literally sacrificing in the way that a sacrifice used to be, where I would burn something, I would, kill something, right? And, actually sacrifice it. But that is where the idea comes from, right? So you're giving up something in order to have something better. So the sacrifice, right? The actual like animal sacrifice, where you whatever, a fatted calf, you slaughter a fatted calf, and you were to praise it and worship it, right? Like, imagine going from being a monkey, an ape, right, who has no sense of the future, and then you start to, after a certain time, you start to realize, like, oh wait, these monkeys, like, you gotta imagine, like, this is how we came to understand the future, right? Animals don't really understand the future. They don't prepare for the future in the way that we do. They can't anticipate in the way that we do, and reason and bargain with the future the way that we can. They don't communicate with God. They just live in this present moment. They just live. Everything is about this present moment. I'm figuring this out, right? But we as humans, we have an understanding of the future. And so as we're evolving, we're discovering more and more about the future. So we decide, like, oh, wait, I can actually make this sacrifice with, if I do this thing now, I can get something from tomorrow. Right? So that's where the ritualistic practice of sacrifice came from. You have to actually practice it and do it, right? It's the same thing with circumcision. Circumcision was about recognizing, if I sacrifice my sexual, what do you call it? This pleasure, this this thing of pleasure, right? Because an uncircumcised man experiences, or sorry, yeah, an uncircumcised man experiences more sexual pleasure than a circumcised man. And so the ritualistic practice back in the day, and these are not modern humans. These are people that are trying to figure out and understand, life. So they realized if they made that sacrifice to put so if they made that sacrifice to put their sexual desires behind them and actually give that up, give this like feeling of pleasure that's like a very strong and powerful pull, then I can actually focus. I can actually grow as a man. I can become more in the future. So all of these things that you want to like actually practice a lot of this stuff so that you can understand. Your brain can't tell the difference, right? Your brain is like, oh, okay. It starts to understand what the meaning is. It starts to create the parallels, right? So that's why this burn and release method is important to practice. When you actually physically burn your emotions, your unfiltered raw emotions, you're gonna burn them. Your brain is starting to learn after a while, this is how I let something go. This is how I let a feeling go, right? So the takeaway here that you want to ask yourself is, am I carrying this emotion because it's useful, or am I carrying it because I'm afraid to let it go? And if it's just weighing you down, it's time to release it. Okay? So then the next segment, we're going to talk about this too shall pass, right? And how to process pain without becoming it. Now, the worst thing that you can do with emotion is make it your identity, right? You are not your emotion, right? And it's kind of a misnomer that we say, I am angry, I am sad, because you are not those things. The proper way to speak about that is that I am experiencing sadness. I have sadness. I have, fear. I have doubt. You are not those things, right? And so it's kind of a challenge, especially in the English language. I think it's different in other languages. I'm not 100% sure, but it is better to say I have anger rather than to say I am angry, because your mind knows the difference. Your brain, your life, the universe knows the difference because you're manifesting that about yourself. And like guys know, I always record all of these episodes, so they're always here. They're always available. They post to YouTube, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitch, Facebook, and on Instagram. So these episodes will be available afterwards. So you can go back in peace. If I say it, because I say a lot of stuff in these conversations. So feel free to go back and watch so you can get it. So I'm just going to keep kind of barreling through. So it is kind of a misnomer to say I am this when it's just like you actually felt the thing. So, right, you felt hurt, but now you are hurt, right? You felt betrayed, but now you are betrayal, right? But here's the thing. Feelings are visitors. They're not permanent residents. In Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, right? To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, right? Your emotions are seasonal. Don't build a house in the middle of a storm, right? Like my mom is always telling us this, like, anytime I get into an argument or, I'm frustrated with somebody, she's like, don't make a decision right now. I'm like, I gotta do something. I gotta leave. I gotta move. I gotta blah, blah, blah. Right. And she's like, don't make a decision when you're in this heightened emotional state. Right. Don't build a house in the middle of a storm. It makes no sense. Right. You're not going to get anywhere good. You're not going to move anywhere that's going to work or be helpful for you in reality. I love to say everything has its season, everything has its time, everything has its reason, and everything has its rhyme. Right? So you got to recognize that what you're feeling right now is just this current season, and the season will change. This too shall pass. You're not going to be feeling this way forever. Feelings are not permanent, right? There are only 9 feelings that are truly, truly permanent. 9. The divine 9. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. This is the fruit of the Spirit, right? The reason why they are permanent is because the Spirit is everlasting. Those are the only true permanent feelings. Everything else is seasonal. Everything else. Everything else. And so you have to remember when you're in those moments that I will be able to get back to peace. I will be able to get back to love. I will be able to get back to joy. I will find myself back there because when the dust settles, that is the natural state of being. Because otherwise, you wouldn't be alive. There is no other reason to live than to experience the abundance of joy, love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That is the reason you're alive. That's the reason for living. And you always have access to it. It's always available to you. So I want you to try the 10-10-10 rule when it comes to letting these emotions pass, right? It's when you're overwhelmed, you're going to ask yourself, will this matter in 10 minutes? If the answer is yes, ask yourself, will this matter in 10 days? If the answer is yes, ask yourself, will this matter in 10 years? If the answer is still yes, it's very unlikely that it's a negative circumstance, right? If the answer is still yes to that it's going to matter in 10 years, right? It's probably a positive thing. And so allow yourself to feel it. It's okay. I'm going to feel this. I'm going to feel this. It's going to matter in 10 years, but it's okay. It's going to, what I'm feeling about it is going to pass. Because it's very, very difficult to hold on to something for that long without it damaging you. And if it starts to damage you, it's actually not the thing. Because can you imagine, you're still experiencing something that happened over 10 years ago in this present moment. You have not yet let it go. So you keep driving it, you keep pulling it up, you keep bringing it back to the surface. So you're not actually remembering a thing from years ago. You're actually experiencing it right now. Right? So this reframes your perspective and helps emotions lose their grip, because a lot of times these things won't last for 10 years. It's not gonna matter in 10 years, really. How many things, like, really in your life are you complaining about or talking about that you were talking about 10 years ago? Right? And if you're still talking about it, a lot of times the problem is you. I'm just going to be point blank and say it. The problem is you. If this thing still matters, if this matters to you and everybody else around you 10 years from now, like, bro, the problem is you, man. So next time you feel overwhelmed, you're going to tell yourself this is temporary. Because when you stop treating emotions like eternal truths, they lose their power over you. Now, I got a question for you. Are you telling the truth, or are you just dumping drama? That was my own personal circumstance, right? That was my experience in my situation, right? Sometimes we tell ourselves, look, I'm just being honest. But if we're being completely honest, what we're really doing is dumping our emotions on people and expecting them to deal with the mess. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. Honesty is important. Honesty is the best policy after all. But let's be clear. Truth without tact is just reckless. Truth without timing is just noise. And truth without love is just a weapon. And there's a big difference between expressing yourself and just offloading your baggage. Think about it. If someone came over to your house and just dumped a bag of trash in your living room, you'd be like, excuse me, what the hell is this? Right? But when we emotionally dump on people, that's exactly what we're doing. Right? It's different when it's processed. If it's different, if you come in, you have like a box of things that you're wanting to process. It's like, hey, can you help me sort through all of this stuff? Right? That's a different thing. And the thing is, like, a lot of us don't even realize that we're doing it. The Bible says in Proverbs 15:23, a person finds joy in giving an apt reply. And how good is a timely word? Translation, the truth isn't just about what you say, it's about when and how you say it. There is a old proverb that says, a knowledgeable man knows what to say. A wise man knows when. A knowledgeable man knows what to say. A wise man knows when. Do you know when to say what you're supposed to say? So before you keep it real, ask yourself, am I venting or seeking wisdom? Am I sharing or just offloading? Am I building up or breaking down? Because not every thought deserves to be spoken, and not every single feeling is meant to be dumped on someone else. So before you speak, pause for 5 seconds and just silently ask yourself, am I sharing this to heal or to hurt? And if you're about to unload your emotions onto someone, step back and process it first. I've been doing that lately in my relationship, and I've been seeing wild changes. I'm telling y'all, like, all of these things I'm telling you guys, I'm learning myself. Okay? I'm not saying that it's easy, but it is worth it to put these things into practice. I'm seeing the world of difference. Like, my wife asked me some really tough questions last night. Some things that, she was able to think about and process, and she asked me some really, really tough questions. Questions that, maybe at a different point might have turned into an argument. And I was really proud of her for like just asking the questions and listening. She asked me honest questions and just truly just listened to my response. And then what I noticed is that it went really well. And then it led to a point where what I sensed is that I had given a lot of information. In answering the questions that she was asking took about an hour. And afterwards, she started asking me some more questions and saying some other things. And I noticed, I stopped. Instead of responding, instead of reacting to what she was saying, I noticed the pattern. I said, nope. This is where it typically happens, because what it is that I've just given you so much information and you haven't even had time to process it. You're about to ask me some questions that it's late, it's midnight right now, and I don't think that this is the best time or place to be able to answer this. I want to answer it. I would love to continue this discussion, but perhaps after you've had the time to process what it is that I just said. And it was a little jarring for her, I could tell. It was like, it's annoying. But then I mentioned that I see the pattern. I've seen the pattern, and I'm doing my best to be intentional. I'm doing my best to learn from these circumstances, right? And I don't want to continue to repeat the pattern and do it the same way that I've always done it. It just takes one person to disrupt the pattern and put you on a different course. Just one. And being the man, I feel like it is my responsibility to do that. And so, my dad said, "I'm a husband, right? You're a husband, and the band is what keeps the family together. And so, it is my responsibility to be that band, and not allow things to go off into this toxic cycle." And it felt really good. It felt really good. I was like, we had a beautiful day today. Let's not go down this road. Let's just settle where we are. You can process what you're feeling about what I just told you, about all the answers to the questions I just gave you, and then we can move on. And then we can come back to this conversation fresh with new understanding and respect for each other. Because that can sometimes go out the window when there's miscommunication. And so I wanted to make sure that we didn't miscommunicate, and we moved on. So, moving on. The truth filter test. When to speak and when to shut up. Now, this next part, this is kind of a game changer, right? So if you've ever said something and immediately if you've ever said something and immediately regretted it, this is for you. So Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers of all time, had this thing called the triple filter test. And if people actually used it, Twitter would be a ghost town. Okay, so here's how it works. Before speaking, ask yourself 3 questions. 1, is it true? That's where I usually stop, y'all. That's where I'm like, okay, it's true. All right, boom, I'm saying it. But we got to go on, okay? So it's not the kind of true. It's not kind of true. It's not your version of the truth. It's objectively true, right? If it's not factual, keep it moving. We not even gonna mention it. If it's not factual, we're gonna keep it moving, keep it pushing. And we're gonna go back to those other 3 questions about finding the right person to share that information with. So 1 is not true, we gonna move on. That's 1. Is it true? Number 2, this is where it gets a little, and I'm thinking like I'm this, right? So it gets a little trickier. Is it kind? So is it true? Is this kind? Now, I'm not saying sugarcoat everything, but there's a difference between constructive and destructive. Are you saying this to help, to truly help, or to hurt? And sometimes you can't tell the difference when you're upset at somebody. You like, oh, I'm just going to tell you this because you need to know this about yourself. Like, but that's not kind. Come on, man. You wouldn't say it like that if you really were trying to be kind to somebody. If you really were trying to be kind, like, I really want to share this with you. Right? Are you saying this to help or to hurt? 1, is it true? 2, is it kind? 3, is it useful? Does this actually help the person hearing it? Or are you just throwing words into the wind because you need to let it out? Does this actually help the person? Is it going to help? Is it true? Is it kind? Is it useful? So let's put it to the test. Think about the last thing you said that caused drama. Would it have passed all 3 filters? Truly. Don't lie to yourself. Let's be honest here, right? Ain't nobody gonna judge you. You just talking to yourself. Truly, ask yourself. It's just you, right? Ask yourself, did it pass these 3 filters? If yes, congratulations, you're Socrates. If no, welcome to the club. Right? We all need to work on this. We all have to work on this. I have to do it. I'm looking at myself all the time. I'm like, okay. So here's your challenge before your next, I gotta just say this. I just gotta say this moment. Pause and run it through the filter. See what happens. Oftentimes you will realize that there's a better way to say it, a better time to say it, and a better place to say it. And who doesn't want better? Don't you want to be wise? Don't you want to be seen as wise? A smart man knows when and how to say something, or what to. A smart man knows what and how to say something, but a wise man knows when. And I love this other quote that says, a wise man once said nothing at all. That's so beautiful. It's so poetic to me. A wise man once said nothing at all. Use the 3-day rule. If you feel an urge to tell someone something that might be triggering, wait 3 days. If after 3 days it's still important and necessary, then say it. If not, it wasn't worth it. Okay? When to let your brain rest. The entrepreneur's curse. All right, so I want to shift gears a little bit. If you're an entrepreneur, and you're an artist, or just an ambitious person, your brain is probably your own worst enemy sometimes. You finally sit down to relax and your mind is like, you should be working. Did you reply to that email? Bro, you're behind. Why are you watching Netflix? And just like that, your entire existence is hijacked by productivity guilt. So let me tell you something that changed my life. Rest is not a reward, it's a requirement. The Bible says, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was given as a moment of rest. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy stranger, nor thy cattle that is within thy gates. This is the establishment of the weekend, because otherwise people would just work you and work you and work you and work you and work everybody else forever and ever and amen. But you must rest. Every single measurement of time that we have is astrological except for a week. 7 days. 7 days is a biblical institution. 7 days. Right? A day is calculated by the time that it takes for the earth to make one revolution. A month is the amount of time it takes for the moon to revolve around the earth. A year is the time it takes for the earth to revolve around the sun. A week is only there because God said a week. God said 7 days. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath. That's the day God rested. Even God knew it was important to rest. Rest is not a reward, it is a requirement. Psalms 127 says, "It is useless for you to work so hard from early morning until late at night, anxiously working for food to eat, for God rests. God gives rest to his loved ones." He gives rest. God's out here giving rest, and we out here rejecting it like it's a scam. You're allowed to rest, especially as an entrepreneur, especially as an artist. You know how hard your brain is working? Your brain is on steroids 24/7, working. You have to be able to rest. Allow yourself to rest. It is not a reward, it's a requirement. You need to rest. Even God rested. Look, I get it. Hustle culture got us thinking we got to grind 24/7 to be successful. But you know who doesn't hustle 24/7? Highly successful people. Jeff Bezos prioritizes sleep. Warren Buffett reads and relaxes more than he works. Even Jesus took naps. If resting feels like slacking, you've been conditioned to believe burnout is a badge of honor. It's not. So here's your challenge. Tonight before bed, write down everything on your mind. Everything on your mind. Then tell yourself, I am allowed to rest. I put it down on paper. I am now allowed to rest. Because guess what? You are. And just like those practical tips we talked about, when you actually put something into physical practice, right? If you don't put something into physical practice, your brain doesn't understand. Your brain won't help you build the habit. You have to do it regularly. Make a routine out of it. See, the physical, have all of these touch points. So here's another practice you can do. Scheduled overthinking. Set a 20-minute worry time every day. Write down, in that 20 minutes, you're going to write down everything you're overthinking. When time's up, you're done. If your brain tries again later, tell it, we have to wait till tomorrow. That's already done. That's already done. 20 minutes of worry time every day. You're going to write down everything you're overthinking. Oh my God, you're going to write it down, put it out on paper. Just whatever. This is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm thinking about. Get it out, get it out, get it out. When that time's up, you are done. So here's the spiritual science of letting go, right? We're going to talk about holding on to things that no longer serve us. Humans are weird, right? We'll hold on to anger or resentment, pain, like we're getting paid for it, right? But here's the truth. Letting go isn't weakness. It's power. Think about it. When you hold on to a grudge, who's suffering? Them or you? Them? Nope. You? Absolutely. It's like tying a rock to your ankle and being mad that you can't run. Buddha once said, you can only lose what you cling to. But sometimes we cling to pain because it's familiar. Sometimes we refuse to forgive because it makes us feel justified. And sometimes we stay stuck in the past because the future feels uncertain. But here's what I need you to understand. Letting go is not losing. It's making room for what's next. In Isaiah 43:18-19, God says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. And that's right. God's got new blessings, but we're out here holding on to old baggage. Here's the truth. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. You can't grow while gripping onto dead weight. You can't move forward if your heart is still looking backward. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, you're going to take one thing that you've been holding on to, anger, regret, resentment, and release it. Write it down, speak it out loud, pray on it, burn it, whatever you got to do. But make the choice. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are free. Use the 24-hour rule for emotional reactions. Never react instantly to something upsetting you. Wait 24 hours before responding to conflicts, emotion, change. Don't let a temporary feeling create a permanent consequence. Okay, so I want to play a little game. Before you share something, whether it's a thought, a feeling, or a hard truth, run it through these three filters, right? Is it true? Is it kind? Is it useful? Okay? And if it doesn't pass all three, we're going to journal it. We're going to pray about it. We're going to meditate on it. All right? So I want you to drop a comment. What's one thing you've said that you later realized you should have kept to yourself? And we can be honest because we've all had these moments. So in conclusion, y'all, the truth will set you free, but only if you know when and how to use it. Because sometimes the truth will trap you. Loneliness isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of growth. Your emotions are visitors, not your identity. They're temporary. Not every thought deserves a microphone. And sometimes wisdom sounds like silence. That is interesting. So he said, I said to an old carnivore, his time is over soon, as is good, so new system can be made. Are you saying that you just told somebody that they were gonna die? I mean, like, I don't know how helpful that is, to be honest. I mean, I think I hear your point, but I don't know how helpful it might have been. Like, did it really change him? Did it get him to change his ways? Like, and also, do you think that he was going to listen to you? Was it useful? Because, are you a doctor? Were you his doctor? There's a lot of questions there. The way that I like to help people transition to a plant-based lifestyle is just truly by living by example. And as you see on my page, and even on my wife's page, like, we are not the type of people to tell, meat eaters or people who don't live this lifestyle that they're dumb and stupid, right? Or they're killing everybody, right? The best way that we can do it is by highlighting experiences that we've been in and bring people joy. Like, at the end of the day, we're trying to make everybody laugh. We're trying to make everybody experience joy. And that, I feel like, is much more enticing, especially to people who aren't necessarily carnivore. They're more so on the middle, where it's like, yeah, like, I know meat isn't the best for me, and like, I know dairy isn't the best for me, and I have a lot of problems. I could be a lot more mindful about my health. And then they watch one of my videos that's funny, because it is funny. It is a funny circumstance, where it's not like, like silly, like, it's not about, I don't know. There's just a lot of content out there that I'm like, this is not helping anybody want to be vegan. But anyway, so they see my content and they're like, wow, this is funny, and like, it actually is true, and like, I should try a little bit more. And then they reach out to us and they're like, hey, can I want some help? Like, how can I actually transition? Because they were able to ask that because we didn't put them in a place of like feeling judged. It's in a space of like all fun. It's all fun and happy and joyous, and like, we can do this together. And like, who am I kidding? The world is not going to change today. That it's not like, boom, like everything is going to be different now, and like everybody's going to go vegan, and I'm just going to be angry at everybody until they do. Like, it's not helpful. It really is not helpful to be on that space. And so I just do my best to spread joy and be a place of like of fun and excitement. And I see how people are much more willing to listen and to enjoy my and enjoy my entertainment, and also be inspired to try something different. Just like on these live streams, my goal is not to beat you over the head and tell you how terrible you guys are for not, oh my God, you're so bad for speaking your truth to somebody that didn't deserve it, right? Like, we're not here to do that. I'm here to uplift y'all, uplift myself, and promote health, well-being, and good guidance and positive lifestyle. That's the goal. Just like that, we are wrapping up another fantastic session here on the Ace Anderson Show. Big love and thanks to each and every one of you who joined us live this morning. Your energy and insights light up this community and push us all to level up in every way possible. Now, don't forget, we're here every single Monday morning, bringing that heat to start your week off right. If today's conversation got you fired up, inspired, or just curious to learn more, drop a comment, share this stream, and tell a friend, because word of mouth is the best influencer. Please keep Ace Boogie in your thoughts and prayers. I promise to do the same. Now, also follow me on all social media platforms at Ace Shot That. Remember, we're on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Snapchat. So come follow your boy and let's keep the A-team growing strong. Until next time, y'all, remember to always, always, always align yourself with truth, trust, and patience. And I promise you will ace your life. Peace.